One race in the books, but the Midweek Masters Championship continues. This time, back to the Netherlands, to Old Zandvoort, new Old Zandvoort, if you're so inclined. Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Lee, joined by the man who knows this track probably better than anybody else here, Dan Van Zutphen, Ash Bibby behind the cameras. One race hasn't scared them off, Dan. They're back, and they're at one of the toughest yet most rewarding racetracks in ACC. Welcome home.
Thank you indeed. Welcome to mine here on, as you say, very beautifully, the new Old Zandvoort. 23 drivers on the grid, maybe even more. So yeah, it's promising to be a cracking race, especially because Zandvoort is such a difficult track. I know it myself in and out. Formula One drivers have described it as the Monaco without walls. Touch the grass and there's a high chance you will find yourself a trip to the barrier, Jesse.
Yeah, it certainly is the case. It's a very short trip most of the way around here. The margin of error is almost non-existent in this configuration of the racetrack. It's very rewarding if you get it right. It is also frustrating if you get it wrong. It's one of those tracks that you either understand or it takes you a very long time to get comfortable with. We are joining you mid-qualifying here. 15 minutes was scheduled. We've done half of that thus far. Badowski, your quickest qualifier, the 45 Lamborghini. Ever since the, I think it was the 1.8 something update, the Lamborghinis have shown up specifically at this track pretty decently, and that's something we didn't see prior to that. But a 35 180, nearly 2/10 quicker than a Zero Goat and that McLaren. And then it's two Porsches right behind them. Tom Shipston, Raphael Huell is your top four. Zodaway is your rounding out top five driver there. Two classes, of course. You've got the pro field, as indicated by the white numbered background, and the amateurs, as noted by the red backgrounds. The difference between this and a normal championship, or one that you may be more accustomed to, Dan, is it's not pro silver and am, and it's not pro and silver. It is everybody. If you have experience and are considered a veteran, you are in the pro field. And if you are an actual amateur, we'll call it a true amateur, you are in the AM class here today.
Yeah, indeed. I've experienced it myself in the RCI Maserati GT4 Cup. We also drove here, of course, then on a wet Zandvoort. And you can just race with everyone. I know that on the actual qualifying, I stole pole, even from the pros. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially how the AMs will fare in this race session, because, of course, as we said before, Zandvoort is really small, and if you're approached by a pro driver, what are you going to do? Are you going to let him by, or are you going to go for an own result? Because you can, you're not obliged to let anyone by, I think. Yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's a good point. There will certainly be some drivers in lap traffic by the end of the race. But for now, the qualifying still going on. Two drivers set themselves apart, that being Badowski and Goat. And now Nicholas Keller for F2O Racing has got all the way up into P3, but the better part of 4/10 off. And it is a log jam there for third place. 4.25 to Huell's 4.27, 4.57, and doesn't really get any better. You got to go all the way back to João Manso before you get outside of about a tenth. All of those cars, third through sixth, fighting for that P3 right now. Nicholas Keller fighting for P1, and he'll do it. It's a 35.090. That was 9 100ths better than Badowski, and that's your provisional pole sitter. The Frenchman's done it.
Yeah, the Frenchman Nicolas Keller, of course, last qualifying, he managed to get it into the top two, only then almost a tenth away shy of pole position. This time provisional pole position, of course, followed by Marco Badowski, the German with number 45. Improved his lap time a little bit, but it's still not enough. As we see the Portuguese João Manso in the 222 Porsche here, also chasing down that pole position, 7/10 away. Of course, you can still improve with this 4 minute to go qualifying session. And as you said before, um, you have it's a really rewarding track, and it's interesting to see, especially the gaps. The gaps are so close together, even though it's such a difficult track to manage, which I find very interesting. But 3 minutes to go, a bit more, and we have an exciting qualifying still on our hands.
Yeah, I think that lends to the track, Dan, to be fair, is the difficult nature of the track. You may have maybe Tarzan figured out, some other drivers, they may have the third sector entirely figured out, and it sort of evens itself
Yeah.
over the course of the lap. And that's the brilliant part. And also, your car, of course, because this is not a one make series, that also plays a large factor in it as well. And it certainly is Zandvoort, a track that has a little bit of something for everyone. I know in years past, the Porsche was almost unbeatable around this joint. And today, though, looking like they're very well challenged and matched up inside this top 10. The Foco, by the way, on pole position of the amateurs. Keith Whittle, 157, is second, and Johnson is third in the 420 McLaren back there. Bubbins up into fourth place in that category. You got Hare and Buscari are your other qualifiers in the AM class there. Mike Redford has not taken time, and I feel like that is on purpose. Mike Redford has had some dreadful results as Badowski has reset quickest lap again. It's now in the 34s, 34.930, topples Keller from the top, and that has reaffirmed the Lamborghini's hold on pole position. But back to Redford, he has had a dreadful run, Dan. You've been with us and seen that recently. I wonder if this is the defensive move. Redford's had such bad luck in the opening coming first couple laps. They're trying to take it into their own hands by not qualifying here and staying out of the melee, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well. However, as I said before, Zandvoort is just such a difficult track to overtake. So I don't actually know if it's that smart of a move, because how much risk are you willing to take to gain up any positions? Of course, there will be crashes today, I know for certain, but it's kind of a risk versus reward scenario. Yes, you play it safe, but because of the nature of the track, how much places can you gain? I think, personally, I would have done my best in qualifying, maybe even got a top 5, who knows, and then wish for the best. We're only 2 rounds in the season, so, of course, anything can happen.
It is true. Of course, we'll have championship points, just basically showing you how the first round shook out at the conclusion of qualifying today. It's a tough racetrack. It's a tough place to get your head around. You know what makes it a lot easier? A Go Setup. Go Setups offers safer alternatives that anybody can drive, and to all the way to full-on esports level setups. I know a bunch of people use them, probably a lot of them in the race here today. They've won a bunch of races here in RCI recently as well. Go to gosetups.com, check them out. Get yourself a setup, a package, whatever you need to get on pace today.
Yes, and indeed, it's about how do you want your setup to be to feel, especially around Zandvoort. I haven't driven GT3s a long time ago. It was a long time ago that I have driven GT3s around Zandvoort, but I reckon you want some high downforce setup with probably a stable setup. Of course, as mentioned before, you don't want to make any setups. It's easy to touch the grass, so better to be risk-free, maybe, instead of having an aggressive risk versus reward setup, as we see here Tom Roberts in the beautiful Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo for Critical Success Racing. Are currently in 16th place, with a gap of 2.3 seconds to the pole position. Marco Badowski has improved his pole positions time. It's now down to a 1:54.8. That won't change because he's in the pit lane. Maybe our Frenchman, Azure Goat, can do something. Last time in Silverstone, he got pole position. So let's see if he can repeat the same. In the Porsche, as we said, Porsche was dominant in the past before. However, it's 7/10 shy from pole position now in 4th place, followed by Tom Shipston in P5.
Mohamed Afif Suhaimi has done it again. That's the second time in recent memory. Suhaimi has set a very nice lap near the end of the qualifying session. think we went to Kyalami not this week, but one of their last championships, and he set a blistering lap there on the final absolute attempt. But another one there, just about cracked the top 10. A couple of cars left, this being the last one. Ground Zeroes Racing's Tom Shipston not quite out of position as Fuels come across the line in fourth. Bryn Jones will be the second to last car. Is it an improvement for Bryn? You bet it is.
It
All the
is.
way up into P11. That was excellent. And it doesn't appear like Shipston was able to improve. No parity here in qualifying today.
Look at that.
Badowski was fighting for it, but it ended up in his hands over Nicholas Keller, who threatened him a few times. Badowski, the quickest in all sectors, a 34.887. That's rare. You don't see that a whole lot. 2 tenths behind them is Keller. They'll share the front row. Goat and Huel on row number 2. Shipston and Zodaway in row 3. And then you have Manso, Richard Withel, John Eraser, Mike Redford, your top 10. Bryn Jones and the like behind them. And all the way down to the AM field. LaFoco on pole position there. Keith Withel in P2. And Johnson is starting third. Spirited qualifying, a lot of cars quite close. Very common thing to see here, but certainly Badowski has sort of put them on notice a little bit.
Yeah, really interesting. And hats off to Marco Badowski. 3 purple sectors, something you don't see very often, especially in ACC. So that's an achievement to already be proud of. Of course, it's still a long way to victory. Especially in this race, qualifying isn't even 50% of the way there yet. So yeah, hats off to Marco Podolski there. And I wanted to talk about pit stops for a second, because last time you didn't have to make a pit stop. I can't remember if everyone did. In my mind, I think they didn't. And maybe we have another pit stop. We do have a pit stop today, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me
Yes.
on that yet.
No, you're
Yes.
absolutely right. Tire
All
change
right.
required here today. Let's show you the championship points. This is basically how they shook out after round 1 at Silverstone. Tom Shipston leads the points for the Ground Zero team, 65 for that Porsche. That was a back and forth race. It was who will end up surviving to win this race. It was Tom Shipston, Jao Manso P2 with 58 points, John Eraser on 53. Azure Goat gets fourth place points with 52, one off the podium here. Nicholas Keller rounds out your top 5 with 47. Mike Redford on 40. Richard Withel with 37 points. Marco Badowski in 8th place with 31. Alexander Vanda. Go ahead, Dan.
Alexander van der Woude.
I thought it was only proper that we let the native Dutch speaker say the Dutch name and spare them from my English pronunciation. 28 points for Alexander. Muhammad Afif Suhaimi rounds out your top 10 with 25. Couple of Welsh drivers, Bryn Jones in 11th place with 23, Tom Roberts on 21, Martin Foster on 19, Kevin Boss, who I don't believe is here today, with 17 points, Adam Carlisle with 15, and Phil Elford rounds out the cars with points with 14. The rest of the drivers on screen are active in the championship, but have yet to score championship points.
Yes, of course, the Swiss driver Surkan Duran sadly didn't got to start last race, but I think he's here today.
Yes, indeed. Anybody, of course, with a dash has retired from the championship. So Dan's absolutely 100% correct. And since we have a few moments here to talk about it, let's talk about the pit stop. They didn't have to make one. Several drivers did, Dan, because of the carnage that happened at Silverstone. Today, though, the pit stop very much mandatory. They are required to add a liter of fuel and make a tire change. And it's only a 10-minute pit window, I'm pretty sure, in the middle of the race. So I think there's sort of an alternation where at the Nürburgring in a week's time, they'll have a 40-minute pit window. They only have 10. What does that do for your pit strategy, knowing that you have such a finite amount of time to get it done?
Well, I was about to say, because of course you can make a pit stop now, you may be able to take more risk. However, because it's 10 minutes, and I personally don't know when the actual pit window is, You might not want to get aggressive on the start or in the race itself. So that's really interesting. Just like last time, you can make a pit stop now, but how much risk are you going to take? Is the risk worth it? Especially at the start, it's dangerous. You don't want to make a mistake. You definitely don't want to get damaged. But when do you want to get aggressive? When do you feel is the time that you can push the tires? And are you going to push from the start or are you going to push from the pit window? So it's a very interesting balance you have to make up as a driver. So I think we'll see some different strategies throughout the race, pushing, being more conservative. Let's see. I think it's going to provide us with some action anyway.
Think it's true, and didn't miss anything on the track. We were just setting up the grid and getting ready. Still 2.5 minutes on that session timer as well. There's that lovely race or monkey racing. I want to say it the other way around for some reason, but it's the monkey racing. Number 45 Lamborghini, the team Volmont, number 27 of Keller behind them as well. That makes up the front row. And that's another question to ask, Dan, is quite simply, can Keller do it? He was 2 seconds off in qualifying the race. Two very different things. Azure Goat has run quite well as of late as well. They start in the second row of this grid as well. I mean, how aggressive are you? I'm asking personally, if it was Dan, how aggressive would you be on a start at this particular racetrack with this group of cars?
Not very aggressive. However, if I was be starting from pole position, I would try to GTFO out of everyone's way. I wanted to get a quick start, but if I was somewhere in the mid back, I would keep a good eye on my mirrors because Zandvoort is just really unpredictable. It's really easy to pick up some damage, get a mistake again. It's just a risk versus reward track, so I'd be very conservative.
Very conservative. I'm gonna go the opposite. I'm gonna say I'm gonna go in there and turn one with a mission. I'm gonna use a little bit of caution. I think is what is required for the moment at any lap one. You're hoping everybody around you uses a little bit of caution, but we have seen some significant incidents. In fact, the last time we were at this very track, there was a incident before we ever got to turn number one Tarzan. So you got to worry about that as well. It's not the widest pit straight on the circuit or on the calendar either, so you got to be paying attention because once you go green and the track becomes blocked, that could be a problem as well. We've had that happen a few times, and I would usually mention there is the possibility of a race restart, though I don't think that's on the cards here today. Well, Badowski's on pole with Keller. We talked about them. Lofoco's on pole in the AM class here. Of course, Dan, the AM class likely has less experience. They're likely a bit more timid, a little bit more green, if you will. Lofoco's got a couple of cars distance, a couple of pros around them. What's that feeling like when you're punching above your weight class a little bit?
Well, of course, who better to ask than myself? That is a joke. But I personally, if you'd ask me, I wouldn't care too much about the pro cars around me. If you're faster, sure, I might let you go. If you're just on my pace, then I don't really mind if you're in the pro class or in the M class. If it doesn't affect my race position in the M class, I would just fight you as hard as I would with the other classes. Of course, were you in a pole position scenario like I was in Zandvoort a few months ago, then I'd probably just let everyone by who's faster than me because I don't want to cause any trouble, don't want to lose myself time, and just be a little bit conservative. But if I was Lofoco, I wouldn't care too much, and my main focus is to get away as P2 in M class as quickly as possible and get a good gap.
Of course, we are reading chat, as we always do here on RCI TV. We had some early ooh-woos. Mike Redford proving me wrong immediately. That was not a by design to stay in pit lane. In fact, they did run several qualifying laps and fact, was a little upset. They had more than half a second in the yeah, they had. Yeah, I made sure I'm reading that right. I do apologize. They said they had more than a half a second in and couldn't quite complete the lap. Now that would have jumped them. They did qualify P10 after all. Did the Mike Racing 95? But they could have been a bit better according to them. But they are not starting from the back of the pack. And Tom Roberts asking, can I get a good luck, ooh-woo for Tom Roberts. There you go. Good luck, man. Hope your race is a bit better than it had been 1 week ago. Tom Roberts would have felt almost like a bowling pin. Our old chat, Ash Bibby, of course, in full control of the RCI TV channel now today. That's using it. His first ever comment is ooh-woo, by the way. He is
Wow.
Ash Bibby. I may imagine that. A lot of good luck ooh-woos coming out here. Final corner before we let them go. Just want to thank another one of our partners here, Fanatec, the leader in direct drive sim racing hardware. For more on the bundles and products they offer, including very nice pedals and wheels, and all of that available over at fanatec.com. Ready to get going. Final predictions, Dan.
Ooh, it's a tough one, but I'm gonna say Nicholas Keller for the win.
Nicholas Keller for the win. He's taking the P2 car. We have seen a lot of time the outside prevail into Tarzan simply because they're able to carry more speed around the outside and they pin the car down the inside. Folks, we got 25 plus cars here at Zandvoort for round 2 of the Midweek Masters. And we are happy to have all of you with us. It's going to be a moment. The green lights are on, and it's a bad start for Keller. Keller's going to get swamped immediately by Goat. Goat's going to go into P2. Podolsky unchallenged into Tarzan this time. Goat instantaneously, without a fight, up into P2. Somehow Keller is able to keep Huell and Shipston behind. Marco Podolsky is gone. Not really concerned at the moment. He's got a clean track. Keller has work to do from P3 now. 2 wide, 3 wide in some instances. Everybody trying to get down to single file, and they just about do through the first couple of corners. No major incidents to report, at least to my eye.
Just like last Silverstone race, Azure Goat had a perfect start. P1 has a perfect start yet again, as we see Keith Whittle sustain a little bit of a bump from the McLaren behind. Not sure who that was, but in any case, Marco Podolsky has the perfect start to his name. But of course, we know what happened with a perfect start in Silverstone. It doesn't guarantee success yet. Anyway, the race goes on. Alexander van der Woude, hometown hero. And in
Love
the
the
BMW,
paint job on that car.
yeah, I love the paint job. It isn't the Dutch colors, but we love the paint job. In P15, he has the M-class leader behind the Foco in McLaren, and he is still doing good. So yeah, Alexander van der Woude. Let's see what he can do in his home country. Jorian Zoeterwij, of course, the other home country hero, in his McLaren, does a little bit better than Van der Woude. In P6, doesn't choose to attack. He is behind Tom Shipston, the winning car of last race, Jesse.
Yes, indeed. It's a bad scramble down there as well. Everybody going for position, but I will say credit and plaudits to this entire grid of cars. That was the cleanest start to a Zandvoort race that I have seen in many, many years here on RCI TV and quite frankly elsewhere as well. So very nicely done. So many race cars, so many opportunities for issues. The biggest issue realistically through all that, Dan, was how Nicholas Keller just caught sleeping on the start, it looked like.
Yes. I could put it on the commentator's curse. I'm not sure.
Sure.
But yeah, indeed, not the best start for Nicholas Keller, the Frenchman in the 27 Ferrari. Maybe he can make up for it. He's 6 tenths behind the back of Azure Goat. Of course, pole position. He took pole position last time, as we see Tom Roberts attacking the Foco, the M leader, in his Mercedes, flashing his lights, begging to let him by, and Lafoco does so. And I've always appreciated a smart race car driver. Lafoco, he knew he was maybe a little bit slower than Tom Roberts, so better to spare us both some time and let him go.
Been on both sides of that coin in my career, and I will say I do like a nice fastidious and courteous attempt to make the pass, and I like it when it's well orchestrated, but there are two sides of every coin, and the other side is, yeah, if I give you this, then don't get in front of me and then hold me up, because
Yes.
look who is right behind Lofoco. You've got Keith Whittle in that 157 Ferrari, who has closed the gap entirely. There started out, there were two cars between your pole sitter in Lofoco and Whittle. That is no longer the case. They are nose to tail, and they are going to likely have to settle this amongst themselves. Johnson in the 420, don't count them out. They're also in a line right there with them, as all three of these cars are now together, though admittedly now that looks more like a second or so gap, and in fact it is, with Keith Whittle, who is now under fire from Jacob Johnson, the Hot Dog Racing 420, putting the pressure to the second place car in the M class.
The McLaren's reign in the M class, it is to see both McLaren being P1 and P3 in the M class. Maybe Jacob Johnson can make it a 1-2 for the British automotive company. So let's see if he can attack Keith Whitehall, the Belgium, anytime soon. Of course, Belgium neighbors of the Netherlands, so he maybe feel a little bit familiar with the Dutch tarmac as well. We see Richard Whitehall here, the English number 957 in the pro class, and he's doing a solid job of maintaining that P9, if I'm correctly. And going back to the start, Jesse, what I already expected, of course, Zandvoort, it's a risk versus reward track. We didn't see too many moves, not too many contacts or mistakes, so I think everyone kept it relatively conservative as we speak. Oh, it's the commentator's curse. Of course, Richard Whitehall
This is such a
going
smart
off there
rejoin.
in P10. P11 gets overtaken by the Mercedes of Suhaimi, the number 32, and drops down to P11, Jesse.
Yeah, my heart goes out to Richard Whittle. Just got a little bit wrong there. It happens to everybody. You don't want it to happen to the race. The most common thing that occurs when you do what Richard does is you shoot off back onto the racetrack, you collect other cars, you hit the wall. But Richard Whittle able to save that in a sense where they're able just to mow the grass down the inside of that corner. They rejoined in a very safe manner. There's a car stopped here. That's a purple and white car. It's the 420. It was the third place car in AM, and they have retired. The third place qualifying car was running third. What on earth has happened there? Between potentially with, there's contact here. Adam Carlisle gets ran into by Bryn Jones. It's all kicking off here.
And just as we were talking about conservative, we see some chaotic Adam Carlisle
stop
there
cursing
in
people, buddy.
Oh, I gotta stop cursing. Just gets hit by the Ferrari, the number 6. Couldn't slow it down. Hits the doesn't really try to take any course of avoiding the Aston Martin of Adam Carlisle, and as a result gets into the back of him. A little bit of contact. Carlisle still in P13, so I don't think he has lost the position, but he has definitely taken on some damage.
Yeah, that will do nothing but frustrate Adam Carlisle, and that has dropped Bryn Jones all the way nearly to the back of the pack. He's second to last now is Bryn, and I have no idea still what happened to Jacob Johnson. I wonder if that was a mechanical issue or a voluntary pullover. The car did not look damaged. The car looked like it had been pulled over on purpose and stopped in a very strange part of the racetrack too. You would assume if they would have been involved in an accident, that car would have been twisted up or up near the barrier. It wasn't. It was just pulled off into the grass. But they have had to retire that car, and it's a voluntary retirement, Dan. But I feel like there's an involuntary reason why that happened. You wouldn't give up on a really good podium fight like that unless you certainly had to.
Well, we can only speculate. Of
course.
No!
We know why. Look at chat, Dan.
Let me have a quick look at chat. They ran out of fuel. Wow.
Well, that explains why they just pulled over. Oh,
wow.
no.
Oh, that's such a shame.
Do you know what
And
that is? He never put the racing fuel load in the car. He went out there with qualifying. It's so easy to
yes.
do that as well. So you get so focused on the start of the race
Oh,
and you forget to take the quali fuel out and put the race fuel in. They made it 3 or 4 laps, but they have unfortunately had to retire. Jacob, we appreciate the
message in
review.
chat.
Yeah, but we are also sorry to hear that happened. A little contact here. This is
Ooh.
Bryn on Hare, I believe, for 20th place. Banging fenders down the front straight right there.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those mistakes you make one time and will never make again. And I was just
Well,
about to say,
unless you're me.
unless your name is Jesse Lee.
You do it about twice a year.
I was just about to say we saw the same thing. What turns out to not be quite the same with Marco Badowski. He was in the lead and put his car somehow with a technical fault to the side, and I think finished in P8 at the end. But that was not the case. Sadly, Jacob Johnson ran out of fuel, and that is a shame. 10 minutes have passed since the start of the race, and we've had quite some action, which is always good to see. Albeit Zandvoort, of course, a difficult track, so you might say, oh well, this is a boring race. Well, I can tell you, it definitely isn't so far. We see Nicholas Keller, of course, my P1 prediction, still in P3, still looking steady, chasing the tail of Azure Goat. Azure Goat is then, or has a gap, 2.9 seconds, almost 3 seconds shy to Marco Badowski, of course. Leader did lead a lot of the race in last race in Silverstone, but unfortunately had some technical issues. I presume Brent Jones then on the outside for the Tarzan bocht, and let's Jay Bobbins, let's Brent Jones past. Of course, Brent Jones is a pro driver, so maybe Bobbins in the 65 Ferrari thought, well, I probably will lose time, so I might as well just let him by and tail chase him and maybe see if I would win some time.
Yeah, unfortunate for Jacob Johnson, as we mentioned earlier, but I just want to say a couple of words of encouragement for Jacob. Look, you've got pace. You qualified the top 3. You were running them down, and who knows what it could have been. It's unfortunate it stings today, but mark my words, we'd love to see you back next week. We assume we'll see you back next week, and you'll be right back up there fighting for class honors again. You can mark my words there. You definitely had pace here, and we'll see if maybe next week is a little better for you. Let's take you to the front of the field real quick. Badowski is the quickest car on the racetrack. That's what the magenta number 1 means. They are the fastest car. That is worth bonus points here in RCI, of course, in this championship, and they're driving away from Goat. It was 2.9 seconds. It's now 3.9 seconds. I have to think that some of that is down strictly to the fact that Goat is getting pressure from Keller, and Goat's having to back Keller up to keep them from getting a run. That's all to the liking of Marco Badowski for Team Monkey Racing. This 45 Lamborghini is not looking back. Now, the question will become, if Keller is able to get around Goat, will Keller have pace enough to chase back down Badowski? We'll have to wait and see if that could potentially be the case at some other time. Lefoco has been backed up into Keith Whittle for the lead of the AM class as well. They're back nose to tail. Keep in mind, that was over a second gap a couple of laps ago, so you wonder if Lefoco had a little bit of an accident, or maybe Keith Whittle just found the pace, but they're absolutely nose to tail back there for 15. And the AM lead, of course.
Yeah, indeed, very interesting. So that will be an exciting battle, which we'll need our eyes peeled to in a very short time, probably. 47 minutes to go, as we see the Portuguese Joao Manso in his Porsche. Now currently Martin Foster, McFly RPMs in the 44 McLaren. And yeah, coming down to the Audi S-Bocht, of course, as you can see, for the ones that didn't notice, we are racing on the, as Jesse said, new old Zandvoort. It's not the upgraded version we had in 2021. Since 2021, it's still the old version. The ACC doesn't
Do you agree
have
with
that
that assessment?
yet.
I'm just an American, so you don't have to agree with me. I
Well, I
consider this
do.
the new old Zandvoort.
Yeah, because Zandvoort, I think, if I'm correct, factually, I think they upgraded or changed the official layout of the track 5 times throughout the long history of the track. Of course, we had in the in the past we had, of course, boss in, boss out. We would fly through the trees, and yeah, it was an amazing track. However, it got too dangerous as the cars got faster and more crashes happened. Of course, we had some really dark deaths during the Formula One days in Zandvoort, and so they changed the layout, probably for the good. And the last change was, of course, in 2021. Please understand, we have an F1 race on our calendar. Couldn't, of course, be done without the success of Max Verstappen. We all know the name. But yeah, Zandvoort doing great, hosting the DTM races and the ADAC GT Masters as well, also as the GT World Challenge this year. So Zandvoort, full of events. I commentated myself a few times on the track. Lovely track to be around. And to add one more thing, I went to the DTM last year, and I always wondered, because it's such a small track, how they fill up the paddock. Because it's the smallest paddock on the calendar, and I can tell you, it's small, Jesse.
Yeah, this is like a homecoming for you. Not only are you Dutch, but you've actually broadcasted races here in real life. So how accurate, I've got to ask Dan, how accurate is Kunos' representation? We generally feel that Kunos does a above and beyond good job on capturing the racetracks of surrounding areas, but you have firsthand experience. You've been here, you've done the deed. So how close is it actually?
Well, I haven't, of course, gone in Kunos of inside the paddock of Zandvoort, and I'm only 18 yet, so I might need to refresh my brain if I need to go back to Zandvoort 2020. Only had been there 2 times before, but I say it's pretty accurate, especially with the curbs. They're all perfectly, and the astroturfs and everything. It's great. So as you say, Kunos doing a great job. So if they'll ever bring the new Zandvoort to the game, because it seems pretty accurate so far. Also with the lakes, I just saw the scenery outside of the track. It's all spot on. Inside the paddock, it's all really accurate, especially the lake there on the right. You can walk actually inside the forest there. It's accessible, so I'd say it's really accurate.
That is absolutely incredible, and that echoes the sentiment that other people have. We have several British commentators and staff members here who are intimately familiar with certain British tracks. I can vouch for the authenticity of several of the US-based tracks here as well, and it is interesting. They don't only get the track and like the sort of the stuff between the barriers you can see. They get the landmarks, like in the geometry of the earth, and like especially
Yes.
here you've got like sand hills, and in Watkins Glen there's certain like hills and bumps in the countryside that you wouldn't normally think of, or you wouldn't associate with they'll get that right. But they do get that right.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely incredible the lengths that they go to get some of this correct. Well, been posting in chat, and it's not a joke. You can enter to win a free GT2 pack. We now know the release date. The pack for ACC, the GT2 cars, are coming out on January the 24th. And RCI and Ash Bibby is giving you a chance to get it at a reduced cost. All you have to do is become a little contact there. All you got to do is become a channel member of the RCI TV channel when we're live racing ACC between now and next Wednesday, or donate a £5 or €5 or $5, whatever your currency is, donation to the channel to be entered to win. We will have a live raffle for anyone who has done that this time next Wednesday, live on the air, and somebody is going to get that pack at no additional charge, courtesy of Ash Bibby. So that's all it is. Become a channel member or a $5 donation and get entered to win the brand new GT2 DLC pack for ACC. Again, that's coming out next Wednesday. You'll have two more chances to enter, one on Monday and one on next Wednesday. And then we will make the drawing at the end of the broadcast. Thank you to Ash Bibby for providing the prize consideration. And thank you. We have a couple of names in the till. And right now, they've got pretty darn good odds, I'll say. But tell you what, it's been close on the racetrack, nearly an accident just a second ago.
Yeah, it's and we see the fighting between Whithall and Suhaimi, if I pronounce his last name correct. But it was really close down into the Tarzan Bocht. The Ferrari of Whitehall tried it out on the outside, but couldn't quite make it stick, and as a result he's still at the rear of that Mercedes AMG GT3 number 32 of Suhaimi, and he's probably trying to overtake him as quickly as possible. And we switch to the other Mercedes of Phil Elford, a pro driver, number 66, down in P17 with 40 minutes to go. He is of course doing consistent laps all around, and as we said yesterday with the AMS2, I can remember Tim Ireland being in no man's land. Phil Elford is also a bit in no man's land, 3 seconds behind, 10 seconds ahead I think, so even more probably, so he's in no man's land. So you're probably just counting down the minutes and ticking off the laps and trying to stay consistent as possible. As we switch to some more action, Nicholas Keller in P3 still chasing down Azure Goat in P2.
Yeah, Raphael Huel's figured out how to get that number 21 Porsche around this joint, and he's doing exactly that. Huel has caught the back of these two, 5.8 seconds up to the leader Badowski. That's not the concern. The concern for Keller is it was a one-on-one fight between them and Goad, and it had been a quite respectful battle between the two of them, admittedly. But now the alarm clocks have to be going off in the back of your mind, because Raphael Huel is here, and Huel's unlikely to hang around for very long. They're going to try and get this done. Keep in mind, we've still got a mandatory pit stop with a required tire change coming up. That'll be in about 4.5 minutes, and it's contact. Keller goes way off into the dirt, into the chicane. Oh, and it's a scary rejoin for a moment as Goat's able to get away with it there. Huel's going to go on by. Here comes Tom Shipston again up into the fray as well. Nicholas Keller is down several positions again in this race.
Well, there goes my prediction. But yeah, as we saw just a bit earlier, Ruel gets a little bit late on the brakes and just touches Nicholas Keller. There's almost no time to react. The stewards will probably look at it, but it's just a very unfortunate incident, and it's very great sportsmanship of Raphael Huel there, giving back the place to Nicholas Keller. So that's great sportsmanship.
Sure did. Well spotted.
Yeah, he sure did. And you know who's advantaging of this? Tom Shipston, winner of last race. Just taking advantage of everyone's mistake. Oh, and that's an incident. That's a big incident.
Oh, Whittle's going to spin.
Of Sushami, I think it was.
Yeah, Whittle has spun. He's still sitting there. He's stranded on the outside part of the racetrack. This is a battle for 10th place with Mohamed Afif Suhaimi. And Whittle, they run out of room. Whittle gets taken to the grass there, and he was spun around backwards in a horrible spot of the racetrack. It's a blind corner. Luckily, he was on the outside, and more cars tend to go to the inside of that corner for safety, but able to get that back going. Something happened to Whittle's son. By the way, we thought it was a brother tandem, Richard and Keith Whittle, but we were wrong. We've been told back on Monday that Richard and Keith Whittle, that's a father and son driving duo, the Whittle's Wizards team. And Keith Whittle, who was right behind LaFoco, something happened several laps ago. I don't know what it may have been, but they fell all the way nearly to the back of the pack, and I think right now they are at the back of the pack, Keith Whittle in the 157. So the Whittle's Wizards have had a frustrating couple of laps here that has promoted Jay Bubbins up into the second place position in that class, and that's 65 Ferrari. Buscri, who started dead last in this race, is now on the AM podium. Shocking turn of events, but nobody can say this race has been boring. It certainly hasn't been, and I don't think we're done yet. Haven't even got to the pit stops. We're still 2 minutes away from that. It's all going to continue to build and kick off. But as you said, Dan, the big winner and all that, honestly, Tom Shipston. Absolutely incredible. He was 5th, now he's 3rd.
Yep, and he qualified 5th again last race, but took advantage and avoided all the chaos, and therefore won the first race of the 2023 GT3 Midweek Masters season. And yeah, that's of course for Tim Shipston. He will be smiling ear to ear currently. But I wanted to touch on Hull in the number 21, who is attacking Nicolas Keller. He gave the position back, but has all rights to attack again. Does it properly now on the inside of the Audi S-Block, but Nicolas Keller defends in the Ferrari and knows to hold the Porsche of Hull off. And it's a very great racing. That's very good defending of Nicolas Keller. Not easy to make it side by side through the Audi S-Box, but he does it, and he fends off Roel there in the Porsche and has a nice big gap. But what I wanted to say is, of course, probably the pit window is creeping in, so is Roel being more aggressive on the tires and therefore winning time, as we see another fight in the Audi S-Box. McLaren against Ferrari, Brent Jones trying to fend off the M leader, the Foco, and maybe the Foco will lose some time, and maybe back Marcus of the M class can catch back up.
Yes, indeed. Very close racing here. You have that here throughout a race like this. It's not like a lot of racetracks that are big and they sort of spread all the way out. That doesn't ever really happen here. You almost never get a moment to yourself, and if you do, it's very fleeting indeed. You end up in a fight somewhere else, just like this. Mohamed Afif Suhaimi now fighting Adam Carlisle after the incidents that have occurred. Richard Whittle, by the way, is in 10th place. Mohamed Suhaimi now in 13th after their issues coming through the first couple of turns. Shipston is sort of hanging on to the back of Azure Goat. We talked about Shipston being the big winner. I think Goat may have also won out on that. Goat's had some horrible luck in some of these races, racing inside the top 5 today. I think Azure may have gotten that lucky rabbit's foot there, was able to stay out of it, didn't have any part of that, held off 3 different Chargers, and is now sort of by themselves a little bit, providing Shipston doesn't catch them. Leader in, Marco Badowski brings the leading number 45 Team Monkey racing car to the attention of the team just as the cycle starts.
Yes, indeed, and I was expecting the cycle to start at this pit window to open only on the 30-minute mark. However, it opens a little bit earlier on the 35 mark, and you've only got 10 minutes to make a pit stop now, and I'm curious to see how many drivers expected to see a 10-minute pit window open, because it's a very fine margin to make a pit stop in and to come up with a strategy. Am I going to push tires again? Am I going to be conservative? And of course, you probably don't know when the pit window starts. So now it might be a great time for other drivers who preserved their tires, who were a little bit conservative on their tires, to go on and attack for the remaining 8 minutes in this pit window. Probably save some time, try the overcut, and therefore win a little bit of positions, win a few positions. Now, if you're interested in seeing more of this action, we have an iRacing IMSA season coming up. Our first race will be held on the January 25. Next week, that is, in Daytona, just as the official iRacing Daytona 24 has passed. We also have just announced today we will have I think a one-off Tuesday LMDH and LMP2 championship or a one-off race on AMS2. Of course, we had another AMS2 race yesterday. That was with Group C cars around Road America. Quite an exciting race with AI triumphing over humans. So yeah, that's interesting, and keep your eyes on that. Of course, we will be back again next week for the third race in the Midweek Masters Season 1 here in 2024. And that will be held on the Nürburgring with, of course, the same GT3 cars. Now, back to the action. Home country hero Jorian Zoetewij in the 777 in the McLaren, trying to chase down and maybe overtake the Porsche of Hull. Hull maybe sustained some damage, and I reckon he might lose some time because of it, and he will maybe get passed even in the pit lane by not only Zoetewij, but maybe also by João Manso. As you see a stop and go penalty for Nicolas Keller. What a turn of events and what a drama we're experiencing here. Nicolas Keller now in fight with that's the Mercedes of that looks like Tom Roberts, but what a turn of events, and that's such a shame. As I hear in my ear from our broadcaster, Ash Bibby speeding in the pit lane. That's what I expected. Stop and go 30-second penalty. I might have cursed him on the beginning of the stream, who knows, but that's it's gone from bad to worse here for Nicolas Keller, the Frenchman in the Ferrari, coming out for F2O Racing Team, struggling with grip, probably because of cold tires, and yeah, that's a shame. Probably a race he wants to forget really soon. Didn't have the best of luck in Silverstone, didn't have the best of luck in Zandvoort as well. That's a really shame, and he probably wants to get by Tom Roberts as quickly as possible, tries to make him nervous by making him aware, I'm still here, I'm in your mirrors, maybe even just let me by, because Tom Roberts isn't in this fight. He still needs to make a stop, but as shown now, Tom Roberts does have the better pace, probably because Nicolas Keller has some cold tires, and he's serving at stop and go 30-second penalty. He won't speed in the pit lane now, definitely not. He will be a bit cautious. And I wanted to touch on the race, on the beginning of the race already, how tricky the pit stop is in Zandvoort, at least the pit entry, because it's kind of a turn, and if you don't get the car slowed down in time, you will still need to turn, and you can't press fully on the brakes because you will lock up into the barriers, and your race is gone as well.
Yeah, I've seen that happen more than a few times. I've seen people try to lock it down and they slide into the wall and you get damage, and even worse than that, you also get a penalty because the likelihood of you being under 50 kph is not very high for sliding around, and pit out is also difficult. We just saw that a little bit as well. It throws you out into the corner, and it's a hair-raising part of the race, these pit stops, and it wouldn't be so bad, but there are quite a number of cars, still 21 of them circulating, and all of them electing to pit at different times. Raphael Huell has assumed the lead. Zoetewij in the 777 and Jana Razor have come in on this particular lap. Everybody else is going to probably go to the longest part that they think they can hold out on. I don't think Huell's going to come in until they have to. Tom Roberts has a history of staying out as long as possible.
Yeah, that's interesting because again, as I said before, you may just want to maximize the tires now and well, do an overcut here. Maybe that works. We have still 3 minutes to go in the pit window, so time is ticking out. Tom Roberts is going into the pit lane, so that makes the choice up to Hull when he is going to make his pit stop. Provisional P1, he will probably fall down to a P2, maybe even P3. So yeah, let's see where Robert Hull will come out when he makes his pit stop. With 27 minutes left, have you been entertained, Jesse?
Oh, 100%. I'm quite curious how these last couple of stops are going to play out and how that's going to affect the race. Currently, Badowski, I think, had a slower stop than Goat, because Goat's only 5 seconds behind, and that gap was pushing 6+ seconds prior to the stop. And I do wonder, with some of these late pitters, Tom Roberts into the pit lane now, So is Huel, right? So I wonder if this has helped or hurt them in any way. And we'll be able to figure that out once the timing and scoring cycles itself out. Badowski gained 3.5 tenths on Goat in that sector, but that's not too awfully telling, admittedly, considering the gaps tend to ebb and flow depending on what sector you're in. The gap between Goat and Shipston has stabilized and did not really change a whole lot. Goat may have gained a bit on Shipston. In fact, now it's back over 2 seconds, so Goat is stretching that gap on Shipston for what we would perceive to be P3 once Huel falls down the order, which they will do in just time. We talked about something quite early in the broadcast. We were in qualifying at the time, but it's happening right now. We talked about the leader getting mixed up with lap traffic. That's about to happen to Badowski in the 45. He is about to catch the end of the field.
Yeah, and I just wanted to touch on because actually it's not the case, because we started with 23 cars. We are with 21 left. Of course, we had the DNF of Jacob Roberts. Who else left? I didn't seem to catch it, and I wanted to say Nicholas Keller left, but he's still in P16, just overtook Tom Roberts, so yeah, that's quite unfortunate for the 2 DNFs we had so far. But indeed, Marco Badowski now catching traffic, not quite there yet. The first car will probably be Keith Whitehall, the 157 Ferrari. Already the blue flags are showing onto his car, or for his car, and he lets the leader Marco Badowski by, and so Marco Badowski won't lose any time with 25 minutes to go. Everyone made his pit stop as the pit window is coming to a close, and I don't think I've seen any massive changes in the field, Jesse.
No, just really time was the difference between some of them. Azir Goat had an excellent pit stop, and she did be presenting the stats and the times down pit lane. I don't know how many arms Ash has, but apparently have several with all the stopwatches that they would require to time all these cars. 1 minute, 0.860 for your leader, Marco Badowski, on and off of pit lane. That does include the time sedentary in the box. Azir Goat, though, was able to post an incredible time. Azir was on and off of pit lane in 57.3, and that kind of confirms my suspicion that Goat just had a fantastic pit stop. And unfortunately, though, on the racetrack, Badowski able to pull that gap back out. But to Goat's credit, they're able to pull the gap back out on Shipston as well. That it also closed in just a little bit, though Tom Shipston has more immediate issues. Raphael Huel, despite all of the mid-race madness that has occurred for Huel and the 21 car, they've caught all the way back up to Shipston and picked up where they left off. The driver's different, the car color's different, but it's still a fight for P3 for Huel.
Yeah, we do see some damage. I don't know if it could be repaired, but we see some metal coming off the paint there of the back of the Porsche of Robert Huel. Tom Shipston still has its advantage gained, of course, from the earlier incidents down to Tarzanborg, the very hard braking zone here, easy to get caught out napping if you're not careful. Hard braking zone and then a hard acceleration zone again for the next right turn. That's the Geurlachbocht. And then it should have been a banked corner, of course, in the new layout, but it isn't so far. We're still running with the old layout again, coming down to Hunsering. That's turn 4. It's the left turn you see right here, followed by the Rob Slotenmakerbocht, the right turn, and then the unforgiving Schijfvlak. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of incidents also in real life.
Ooh, speaking
in the Schijfvlakbocht. Ooh, and there is a lapped car in the way, but everyone seems to manage. But yeah, a very difficult Schijfvlakbocht, now down to the Marbollenbocht, followed by the Renault-bocht. And that's almost a lap done here in the new old Zandvoort circuit. Now coming down to the famous Audi S-bocht. It does have a different name apparently, but I can't seem to remember what it is. I talked with some locals on the track, and apparently um, there are some argues about what the actual corner name is. Well, it's officially confirmed to be the Audi S-bocht, and now coming out of the Kuno bocht and onto the Arie Luyendijk bocht, which is a banked corner to date, and that's a race lap around Zandvoort done.
Very well said indeed, and that is all the confirmation I need that there's a reason, folks, that I keep an international commentary staff from all over the world, stuff like that, because no matter where we are, we've got coverage, and Dan excellently illustrated lap there. And Zandvoort's not the only track that has a contested corner. There's every time we go to Spa now, there's an argument amongst the Belgian locals and of course the greater racing group in general of what no name is called. Is it no name? Is it speakers? Is it what is it called? Same thing with a couple of other corners as well. So some tracks they're like that. Also, you've got Ascari in Italy, which is called Ascari, but the corner after that it may or may not be the Parabolica anymore. So, oh my goodness, a lot of contention going on with names like that. But man, I gotta ask, do you like the current F1 layout, or do you prefer this older layout? If you had a choice, a little bit of contact there, as I think that Zodaway gets into the back of Huel. They're able to get away with it here. But which do you prefer, F1 layout or old layout?
I'll quickly just seeing the replay here. An incident we've seen 3 times already. Rafael Hull was on the other side.
He tried to get away too. He saw it coming.
Yeah. But he was on the other side with the Keller incident, and now has a taste of the Keller side. But which do I prefer? I think it's probably a popular decision. I played it on iRacing a few weeks ago, and I prefer the newer version. Why do I prefer the newer version? The newer version, especially in the new banked corners, they're a bit wider, and therefore you can take more risk, especially in turn 3, the first banked corner. You can take a little bit more risk, and you can take more lines. You can stay on the inside and gain some time there if you're in a low-powered car. If you're in a high-powered car like a Porsche Cup car, you want to be on the outside to really gain a slingshot and fire your way down to the Hunserung. So I think I prefer the new layout, especially because it creates more width of the track and therefore more overtaking opportunities, and probably allows for a few more mistakes here and there. What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I like in sim racing that we can have both. I think as a driver, I would probably prefer to race on the old circuit if I was in a high-powered car. If I'm in a if I'm in a low-powered car, I'd prefer the old circuit. If I'm a high-powered car, however, I would probably like the current F1 layout because of what you said. The high steep bank corners, you can sort of V off your corners in some of them, and it's just, it carries a lot more speed, and it didn't hurt the character. I heard a lot of people say that all the F1 new layout, it hurt the character of Zandvoort. I don't think it did. I think it added more to it, and you mentioned earlier, you documented the track's been changed numerous times, but in my opinion, it has never lost its luster or its character, even in its current configuration. Shout out to Daniel Crinson, by the way, who confirms that Speakers is now known as the Jackie X corner. So that is correct. That is what it's currently known as. But I work with a crew professionally every year who refuse to call it that, which I guess we're all old and stubborn, and it's Speakers, so that's what it is. You folks call it by other things. Dan's laughing at me because I called myself a geezer.
No, that was actually.
Oh, I see. I thought you were laughing at me. Oh, yes, I see. We got a car, the 924. That's Booskry has had an incident here with the 157 of Keith Whittle. Booskry has returned to the pit lane. Some manner of kerfuffle there. Hey, folks, if you've just joined us, well, first of all, hello. Welcome to the final 17 and a half minutes of the race. number 2, just your final reminder today that you can enter the win the new Assetto Corsa Competizione GT2 Pack DLC on this channel whenever we're live in racing ACC. Those are Mondays and Wednesdays. The pack got an official release day today with the announcement that the Mercedes-AMG GT2 is in the pack. The release day is for 7 days from now, January 24th. And on January 24th, we will have a raffle for anyone who subscribes to the RCI YouTube channel or makes a £5, $5, €5, whatever donation to the channel. You'll get entered to win that pack. A couple of names already in there, and we'll do the raffle live here next Wednesday. You've got 2 more opportunities outside of today. We'll be back live with you on Monday, and of course on Wednesday, to put your name in the hat to potentially win that new GT2 pack.
I can almost predict who's going to win this race. It's probably Marco Badowski. He has a staggering lead of 8.5
Haven't
seconds.
you learned anything, Dan? I can't believe you'd say that after everything that's happened today. These 2 cars going completely side by side. A dangerous proposition in the best of times, but they're trying to make it work, and they're just about getting it to work,
That's some good racing, but I'll promise you one thing. If it goes wrong for Marco Badowski, I'll stop with my predictions. But,
okay, fair enough.
We'll see. But and it's a bold move, and it's almost some contact. Martin Afife. Yeah,
he's gonna get spun.
That's a dramatic turns of events. Almost.
Oh, you gotta be kidding
hero
me.
Alex van der Woude. Alex van der Woude touched Martin Foster in the McLaren there, and it all kicks off here. It starts with Mohammed Afif Sahaimi. He loses control, gets almost spun, but also almost by himself. And then Tim Foster is a victim of Alex van der Woude, hometown hero or home country hero. And Alex van der Woude, very sportsmanship-like, gives the position back to Martin Foster. That's the thing you love to see. He recognized his mistake, but yeah, that was a really, really messy scenario, Jesse.
Yeah, it is, because it's a part of the racetrack where flow is everything, and they all sort of got knocked off their momentum, and you're expecting cars to just sort of pick up and run through certain parts of the racetrack, that being one of them. It's a flowing, fast right-hander, and it all started. I think Mohammed Afif Suhaimi was, I don't know if they got on the dirt or they were just trying to get down the inside of the car in front of them, and it all kicked off, and it went wrong, but it slowed Suhaimi up because they had to get off of the curb and get back in line, and they nearly lost it, and Foster just right into the back of him because Suhaimi was trying to grab the car or keep it under control, and then, oh my goodness, right at the end, Keller with the contact, I'm pretty sure it was, but just an absolutely frustrating day for a couple of drivers, Keller included. A drive-through penalty for Keith Whittle, that for track limits, of course. No live stewarding here today. The pit stop was clean on the 157 car, so forced to believe that they've been given a drive-through for track limits. That could also have been for speeding into the pit lane. I think Whittle went to the pit lane again. In fact, they're there now. But I wonder if maybe they released the limiter too early or something coming out of the pit lane. Either way, they've got a drive-through penalty that given out by ACC, and they are back in the pit lane.
Probably track limits, but I almost don't see how you could get those here in Zandvoort. Of course, you could cut the Audi S-Box, but then something must have gone horribly wrong. So yeah, really interesting that drive-through, because we're speeding in the pit lane. You normally get a stop-and-go 30-second penalty, as we saw with Nicholas Keller here. Really quickly, I wanted to touch on, as we see, Keith Whitehall. I think he retired from the race, drive-through already at the back of the pack, and that will probably move up Bowstry into P3 in the AM category. Yes, it does. So Bowstry in a Mercedes, he may be 3 laps down, but he's still in P3 in the M class. That will be a good...
Tom Roberts has had an accident in the chicane.
Has he? Oh, Roberts.
There he is.
Ooh,
backed up. He's done that
yes.
on purpose, Tom Roberts. He didn't end up in that position. He must have I don't know if it was the curb that got him or he was contact with another car. We have a replay here. He's all by himself. Is this going to be a curb incident? Yeah, it is. Carries too much momentum. And he throws it in reverse here. And he realizes, no, I can't just rejoin. I've got to get out of the way. And he does. That's very smart driving by Tom Roberts there. He can see the cars from that position. And as soon as there's a gap, he's going to crank a lot of right wheel in it and rejoin in a safe manner. Now, if only every driver in sim racing was that accommodating.
Yes, I was just about to say. But I wanted to touch really briefly on the renewed curbs here. I drove the Maserati race here. It was wet. Tom Roberts going wide, let his back marker pass. But in the current state, as we see, it almost looks Phil Elford has an accident with that Mercedes. His front seems badly damaged. But on the old layout, the curbs were really old, really sticky, really slippery. I must say, especially in the wet, and it's really easy to make a mistake on the curbs, as we see here. And those renewed curbs have a little bit more grip, and that's nice. And that probably makes the track a little bit easier, but that doesn't make it more. You probably make more mistakes still. Anyway, Azure Goat in second place in McLaren, driving his own race really. He's not in no man's land, but he isn't getting attacked by Tom Shipston in P3, but he also doesn't have to attack Marco Badowski, the German driver in the Lamborghini. So yeah, it's again ticking down the minutes as well for him, ticking down the laps, because he probably realizes as well, Jesse, I can't catch the lead anymore.
Yeah, at some point you've got to be realistic with what you have. And for Goat, this is still an excellent day. Badowski in the championship points, they're sort of in no man's land. They're in 8th place right now. Azure is going to gain a lot here, potentially on Shipston. If Huell's able to get by Shipston, that will also increase the windfall for Azure as well. Zhao Manso inside the top 10 in 6th, but not really a threat here thus far. So it's going to be a good day for Azure. It's going to be a great day for Marco Badowski. There's going to be a few new players up in front of this field. Tom Shipston has not done anything to hurt their ability to win this championship today. Of course, running third, and especially if they stay there, it'll be a pretty darn decent day. It's going to be a lot of happy race car drivers at the front of this field. Badowski, Goat, Shipston, because they'll certainly be saying to themselves, well, could have been a lot worse. Zandvoort was going to be one of those 50-50 roll of the dice tracks for us, because it always seems to be. You can be, as we saw, minding your business completely beside the point and get involved in an incident, or something can happen around you. Richard Whittle still driving around the track. I wondered if maybe they just had an incident of some variety, but no, they look to be going around pretty decently here in 9th place. A couple of drivers are going to be absolutely frustrated with how this day has gone. Maybe Richard Whittle, certainly this driver, the Frenchman Nicolas Keller, the F2O racing car. Oh, what might have been for them.
Yeah, behind Alexander van der Woude, the pink BMW. And I wanted to say, I think Azure Goat, just as I said last stream, he can back on this race, and he probably thinks like, well, I'm optimistic, realistic about this result. I started P3, avoided the chaos. Sure, I can't get P1, but it's a consistent result for the championship, and consistency really is key, especially in GT3 racing. As we see Nicolas Keller not desperately trying to overtake Alexander van der Woude, but he want to make a move quickly, because it's 3 seconds to the next car and time is ticking. 8 minutes remaining. Will he send it down the inside on the marbles?
Yes, he will.
Yes, he will. Makes
it's gonna be contact,
but it turns out pretty well. Could have been a lot worse. He will still be on the attack, but will bail out probably because of that contact, Jesse.
Yeah, patience starting to run out here late in the race. Hey, if you're running out of patience with your current sim racing setup, digitalmotorsport.com has what you need. It doesn't matter what you're looking for. If you're looking to just upgrade your wheel, your rim, or get a full-blown new sim rig, Digital Motorsport has all the top brands from all the top equipment. And of course, they also have a sim rig builder. Build the sim rig. Thought there's going to be contact there. Build the sim rig of your budget or your dreams at digitalmotorsport.com.
Yes, as we see, Nicolas Carroll is still on the back of Alexander van der Woude, and they're approaching, I think that's a back marker. Yes, it is a back marker. That's P3 in the M class, Bouskri. Can Nicolas Keller go for it in the Audi S-Box on the
do it anyway.
outside? Nah, it's very unlikely, and he's patient, but again, time is running out, so how patient can you be, and will Nicolas Keller be, the Frenchman in the Ferrari?
This is pretty good here. You can obviously see a little bit of the frustration for Keller. Van der Woude is not really doing anything wrong here. Was that a bit of a touch? It was. He's going to get off of him as Keller to keep from the second touch. That's what we've seen all day be so dangerous. It's not the first one necessarily. It's the double tap. This is not a zombie video game, so he elects not to do that, and they both survive. But if I'm Van der Woude, I'm getting a little bit upset with the amount of contacts with Keller. If I'm Keller, I'm getting frustrated because I'm quicker and I should be able to get by, and the time is ticking away.
Yeah, well, if you waited for just a few seconds on the throttle, a few milliseconds on the throttle, then you could have just overtaken Alexander van der Woude and could spur off into the distance, but he chose to be a little bit more aggressive, and you lose time because of that. Impatience doesn't exactly reward you in other sports, especially not in GT3 racing, and he probably feels the consequences of that. The gap to P11 of Martin Foster has, because of that, been led up to 4.6 seconds. The gap is now 4.6 seconds. It got a bit bigger. Now Tom Shipston is going to be attacked.
Something's happened to Goat. Something surely has happened to Goat. The gap's completely gone now. Goat's now several seconds further behind Badowski. It was 9. It's now nearly 12 and a half. Tom Shipston and Raphael Huell are on the back of Azir Goat for P2 with 5 minutes to go. It's all to play for these podium positions now.
And again, really entertaining this Zandvoort race. Zoeterwij is at the back as well, so don't count him out yet. Hometown hero or home country hero may be looking for a podium spot. Of course, he knows the tarmac maybe a bit better than others, but Azir Goat still on P2. Maybe overused his tires, overheated his tires, got some tire wear, and does feel the consequence of tire wear. Tom Shipston chasing down that P2, and that will be very good for his championship results and championship chances, because remember, he got the victory last time out in Silverstone. So he's probably eager to extend his championship lead. And Nicolas Keller still fighting, attacking that BMW of Dutchman Alexander van der Woude.
Yes, of course. Big thank you to our partner AK Esports for more information on how they can help you with your esports series. Go visit them, akesports.it. They certainly help us a lot around here with servers and whatnot. Of course, helped us in a big way putting on the 6-hour esports series this past year, and we couldn't do it without them. akesports.it. Find out how they can help you today. Nicolas Keller is trying to find a way to help himself in front of Van der Woude, but it hasn't happened. They've taken a couple of stabs at it, quite literally in a couple of cases, but nothing has stick. Van der Woude has done an excellent job, all things considered. Got jacked up sideways and still held firm.
I like the mentality of Van der Woude. He just keeps his head cool, even though he's got a really aggressive, impatient Frenchman behind him. But I think that's Phil Alford taking a grip down gravel lane. So that's interesting. And he makes mistakes. Van der Woude tries to defend, and it's going all good, at least for Van der Woude. Nicolas Keller lost some times, and I can't imagine the frustration the Frenchman feels to be still stuck between or behind Van der Woude. It's absolutely incredible, but it's action-packed to the maximum.
Keller's trying a lot of different things, and Nicholas is not just trying to bomb it down the inside. They're trying anything. They're any place where Van der Woude makes a little bit of a mistake. Keller is putting their nose there, tempting fate, but he's not being overly aggressive, in my opinion. He's probing. He's getting as close to the limit of aggression as you possibly can do, but in my mind, he hasn't quite gone over it. But this is really another story that has developed in the final couple of minutes here. Azir Goat has done such a good job. They were opportunistic. They took P2 from Keller on the initial start after a bad start for the F2O driver, and the racing team Solvalu McLaren has not looked back. They've had to look back a few times, but they've not actually looked back. They've held firm. They've had all sorts of challengers from drivers in the top 5. Keller, Huell, Shipston, all of them. None of them have been able to pierce the armor of Azir Goat, but now it is almost 4 cars under a blanket fighting over P2. At best, they're going to have 1.5 laps to settle this. The leader in the final couple of corners. This will be the start of the last lap for them. And of course, this group a few turns behind, but very, very close indeed. And hey, if you want to learn how you can drive as good and as consistent as some of these top performers have today, Driver 61. They offer one-on-one driver coaching and full-on racing schools. Visit the link in the description to schedule your coaching today. Driver61.com.
Blood is rising, and so are the drivers getting more nervous. Nicholas Keller, the anxiety is probably rising with every corner to go. He tries to make a move, and he is being patient now, but again, that cost him a lot of time. Again, that P3, the battle for P2 is awesome to see, incredible to see the cars just driving with each other, not really attacking, but just being patient. When can you make your move? When is the time? And will you claim a higher spot up on the grid? As we see Nicholas Keller fighting for that higher spot in P12. Tries it down the outside of the Audi S-Box. That won't work. Of course it won't work. It's Audi S-Box as he loses control. And that's probably his chase for P12 over. Unless I've just cursed him. But I think that's, the battle for P2 is pretty much over.
Wow, well, we'll see. They've got one more lap, all of those cars, and it's a logjam here. Azir Goat is going to put the pedal to the metal and get out of here. Shipston has made a little bit of a mistake, and has
look at Soetewij.
Bottled up everybody. Zonaway in the background is now side by side with Huell. That is for P4. He has it for a minute. Jorian is going to get shuffled out. Around the outside is Huell. This is coming to the flag. Marco Badowski has never looked back. He had everything going his way, and he doesn't squander the opportunity. Badowski wins it. Goat's likely P2, but Zonaway and Huell fighting over that position, and it's going to go the way of Tom Shipston for P3, and for Jorian Zonaway, P4, Raphael Huell in 5th. Incredible racing for podium spots here on the final lap.
And the ending says it all, what we saw this race. Drama, entertaining, overtakes on the last lap, crashes, spins. We've seen it all, just like last race in Silverstone. Richard Whitehall had a quite consistent race and comes home in P9, followed by the Aston Martin, the beautiful Aston Martin of Adam Carlisle, coming out for AMR Lycan Racing, the Brit. Kellers is off, Nicholas Keller is off, and drops down even more places. We haven't seen it all because Nicholas Keller just crashed or spun off from P13 to P15. And again, this is a race to forget, but Martin Foster in his 40 for McLaren finishes in P11, just outside of the top 10. Home hero Alexander van der Woude, he defended like a lion, like a Dutch lion. Brent Jones then in P14, and Nicholas Keller last to finish in P15. Jesse, what a race this has been.
Yeah, it sure has been a outstanding race, drama-filled throughout, a lot of good racing, some fender banging, and you know, God gave us fenders for a reason, folks. We got to use them. So I think a lot of this, there's going to be some bent fenders and some bent feelings, but there's also a lot of good racing in the margins as well. And I don't want all of that to overshadow what Marco Badowski has done here today in
Yes.
his Lamborghini. It has been over 365 days since the last time anyone in the top class has ever had a Grand Slam here in RCI TV. That's pole position, the fastest lap in the race, all the sectors, and the win. That is a Grand Slam. That is so rare to have for Badowski, and well done indeed. Never looked like anyone was going to topple him today, and has put himself in the running for the championship. Azure Goat has reaffirmed they're going to be a championship contender with P2. Tom Shipston hangs on to third even after that last lap bobble, and Zodaway with the incredible advantageous move on Huel there at the end. I didn't quite see what happened to the 21. I don't know if there was significant contact, but just incredible. Lafoco wins it in the AM class, was challenged early, but found their rhythm and their pace. Jay Bubbins, a career day for Jordan Bubbins, P2 in that class as well. And Booskry with third place in that class. And I don't believe anybody outside the top 20 will get points because they did not finish 85% of the race. Incredible.
Yeah, Marco Badowski is German, but I can see he might have some Dutch roots inside him because he drove amazing this race on the Dutch tarmac. And yeah, again, what a race it has been. We've seen it all. We thought we've seen it all in Silverstone, but we definitely didn't. We've seen even more in Zandvoort, and there's maybe even more to come in Germany on the Nürburgring. But it's an incredible race, and I am honestly a little bit lost for words, Jesse.
I mean, who wouldn't be? Just an incredible race it was to see today. We kind of have to tell people Zandvoort is a track that some sleep on, and you absolutely shouldn't do that. It puts on excellent races exactly like it was here today. The cleanest start we've had at Zandvoort in a very long time. The first Grand Slam we've seen in a calendar year, and some excellent racing and the podium positions, all that switching up, changing throughout the race. What more could you possibly ask for? Folks, we'll be back with you next Wednesday from the Nürburgring. We're taking a short hop over to Germany for that one. And of course, between now and then, the Monday Ferrari Challenge Cup will also be at the Nürburgring. Oh, one hotel room this week for all of us here at RCI.
Hmm.
We don't have to we don't have to go through passport control more than once. I love that. So yeah, we'll be at the Nürburgring for both races, the Ferrari Challenge and the Midweek Masters. We can't wait to see you there. A couple of other things. If did you know RCI races more than just ACC? We had a Automobilista 2 stream yesterday. Those will likely continue. And of course, we have iRacing fresh off the success of the 2 hour, 40-minute Daytona race a week or so ago. We read out the podium finishers on Monday's stream. We got more racing coming up, including the IMSA Road Racing Season 1. That is open for signups right now. That championship starts on January 25th. Still time to sign up for that for iRacing. And there's the Tuesday LMDH and LMP2 multi-class one-off event, and that one is at the Red Bull Ring, and that race happens on January 30th in iRacing. We've got the WRC stuff going on. Join the RCI Discord. Get into the Race Net Club for RCI Rally. We cover those as well here on our weekly broadcast as well. You're not going to want to miss it. Do bear in mind the Night Owl Winter Break series. We're not broadcasting that anyway, but it's not live this weekend. Round number 3 will take place not this weekend, but next weekend. But we'll see you back here live on Monday for more Ferrari Challenge, and of course back on Wednesday. Remember, 2 more streams to enter to win the GT2 pack, courtesy of Ash Bibby. Your next chance to win, or to enter to win, will be on Monday. Dan, final thoughts.
Final thoughts again. Great race, but I'm excited for next race on the Nürburgring. Hopefully, just as much action and just as much drama. Of course, then Marco Badowski will be his home country hero. So yeah, final thoughts. Excited for next week.
Well, the Midweek Masters did not disappoint on the Dutch shores today. Where will he be when we go to Germany in 1 week's time? The championship is more alive than we could have ever have hoped after two races, with 4 or 5 drivers nipping at each other's heels. Ash, did you have anything to say to me before we say goodbye? Oh my
Ah,
goodness, right at the end of the stream, Jay Bubbins, who finished P2 here today,
of
has
course.
gifted a membership to Mike Redford. That enters Jordan Bubbins into the giveaway in 1 week's time. Thank you, Bubbins, for the gifted membership, and good luck in the drawing 7 days from now. And also, congratulations on the P2. Folks, thank you all for being with us. Like if you haven't already, subscribe if you aren't. We'll see you back here on Monday and, of course, Wednesday. I've been Jesse Lee, joined by Dan Van Zutphen and Ash Bibby behind the cameras. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. Have a good night.
Goodbye.